Merhaba merhaba Gabi Noctis'ten herkese merhaba arkadaşlar, nasılsınız? Ona da buna da bana da sizden ama herkese merhaba. Evet, ikinci bölümle birlikteyim. Beğenini yorumunu eksik etme diyorum. Abone değilsen abone olsan tadından yenmez diyorum. Evet, keşif oyunu devam ediyor. Muazzam, aşağı Londralıyız tabii ki de. İngilizce yok ama güzel bir keşif oyunu. Tatlı, dinlendirici, çerezlik bir oyun. Beğenini yorumunu eksik etme diyorum. Burada kalmıştım. Haydi bakalım. Çok tatlı bir şekilde ilerliyor oyun. Güzel kayıtlar da alıyoruz. Evet, kaydı alıyorum. Hadi bakalım. Oynanış süresi dediğim gibi 2-2,5 saatlik bir süre sahip. Tabii ben bunu öyle gördüm. Daha fazla olur mu bilmiyorum. Şu an 3 tane duman var. Bunların hatta 4 tane, sırayla gidelim. Bir bakalım ne var ne yok. Baya baya tilki koştura koştura bir oldu. Aa, 4 tane bölüm. 4 ayrı farklı yer galiba. Aha. Hadi bakalım. Güzel. Bunu beklemiyordum. Yani 4 farklı diğer diyelim. Buradan mı, buradan mı? Şurada bir mevzum var. Evet, 4 farklı diğer.
Almost all stories follow the same kind of structure, and it starts with an inciting event, and then there's rising action, and then there's a climax, and then there's falling action. And it's actually really difficult to make an interesting story where you only hear these two people talking, and it's spoken through a dream that's already happened. And the most of the action is about this animal that isn't directly related to this couple at all. So I don't know what I was thinking, but my hope was that it would create some interesting things and connections that I didn't see before. And that was kind of the whole exercise of making the first tree.
Okey, bundan 2 tane daha bulacağım. Okey. Şunlar. Olabilir mi? Olabilir mi? Olabilir. Haydi bakalım. Hop. Vallahi tilki değil, keçi. Tatlı ya. Ya tam böyle hani dinlenmelik, farklı, enteresan. Bu arada kaykay. Güzel bir oyun.
I did want to do
Açık
something
dünya.
a little different with this level. I wanted it to be more open world feel, and that there was something blocking your progress. So it did encourage people to look closely and see how to unlock this blocked way. And I do like just walking around this level and listening to the beautiful music by Josh Kramer. His work really sets the mood for the whole game. Even at my most distant, at the times when I detested him the most, he kept reaching out. For a year straight, he asked me every week when we were going camping. I thought he was just dense. Eventually, to shut him up, I agreed. We carried out the worn lawn chairs from the garage and set up a cinder block campfire at the site we'd always used behind the house. We walked down the mountain path, talking in warm sunshine. We only got a couple months of the year. Those 3 obsidian rocks shimmered alongside the shore, almost like sparklers pressed against a dark window. I'll never forget that wet stone on my feet, or how those massive mountains looked even bigger in the lake's reflection. I felt small, but grateful. As the sun set, my dad found something I hadn't seen for a long time. The tree where I'd made my first carving when I was 6. I hadn't even carved it. My dad had helped me, but I still called it my tree. Something about seeing my name there made me open up, and we talked about everything that night in that old camouflage tent. I told him how much I love sketching and design, and how it would be a dream to study architecture in Seattle. I told him how I didn't get along with my friends much anymore, but that I didn't mind being alone. He told me he was there for me, and he joked that if all he had to do was write my name on a tree to finally get me to talk, he would have left me carved logs with novels on them in front of my room every morning. I don't know why it took me that long to realize it, but it was then I knew how much he had sacrificed for me.
Burayı açmam lazım. Ağaç çok güzel burada ya. O ikinci. Neden olmadı? Sanırım şundan sonra olabilir.
I don't think the first tree could work at all without the music by Josh Kramer. And his music, it's actually publicly available to license, and so it was affordable for me since this was a hobby project. And it's something I like to tell new indie developers all the time, like, you can't afford that composer, you can't afford a full-time programmer. You need to cut corners and finish your game, and the way to do that is to use these amazing publicly available assets that anyone can purchase and license. And so his music it's incredible, and I actually haven't talked to him that much, I've just emailed him. But his music was nominated for Most Emotional Music at the Emotional Game Awards in France, and he's just a really nice guy. And I think there's so much amazing content out there that if you're thinking of making a game,
buraları
look
keşfetmen
around
lazım
and
ya.
see
Şuraya bak.
what you can make work on a tight budget, because it worked really well for the first tree.
Üçüncüyü de burada buldum.
My dad built a lot of stuff in his free time. If he wasn't watching fly fishing or reading Tom Clancy novels, he was carving something. He made tons of birdhouses. Not that he was into bird watching, but I think he really missed working and adding on to the home. If he couldn't afford the time to build onto our own house, he would have to settle with watching birds move into their little homes. We kept an old mattress in the bed of that ugly yellow truck, so we would drive it deep into the woods and then watch the birds fly into their houses while the sun set. Usually it was accompanied by venison jerky or a cold Coke, but not a lot of talking, which is how we both liked it. Earlier I said I just love going through video games and exploring, like looking at every nook and cranny and just trying to find little details. And I think that started because in middle school and high school I would make mods
Aslında onlara
for my favorite
şey yapmasam
games,
da olur
namely
yani.
Jedi Knight,
Dinlemesem
Jedi
de olur da.
Outcast, and Far Cry.
Ne bileyim.
And I loved like this huge world of mod makers who would make these levels and it'd be like the most random creative things, and I would just love exploring.
Her şeyi bulmam lazım benim.
By myself. So even though I went to college for film, before that, like before high school, I was
Şurada var bir
making
şey.
video games and mods, and it was my favorite thing in the world. I made a ton of different levels. I made an abandoned space hotel with a dance floor and cafeteria. I made a haunted campground with cabins and tents. I made this whole city with like the first ever day-night cycle with running showers and stuff in the hotel and the apartment buildings. And I just loved making those mods. And I think that carries over to my game, the first tree, and also the one before that, Home is Where One Starts, which is it's exploration. You're just looking around and appreciating the details.
Aa bu ne? Ay buldum tamam süper sevindim ben buna. Sevindim de. Ben bunu nasıl alıyordum ya? Tamam buluyorum abi niye alamıyorum? Allah Allah. Aha. No. Okey. Allah'ım yarabbim basılı tut şey yani birkaç defa tuşa basman lazım. Tek basınca olmuyor. Evet güzel sevindik. Bir tanesi de oradaydı. Hadi oradaki kapıyı açalım. Let's go. Evet buradan her zaman bir çıkış var sanırım ya. Güzel. Kaybolmadık. Bakıyorum kayıt alıyorum haydi. Aha. Evet. Valla oynayıp da keyif alacağımı bu kadar düşünmemiştim ha. Gerçekten baya keyif aldım ya. Bunları topluyorum da hani yani ne olacak bilmiyorum. Hadi. Yoruldu ya tilki. Tilki yorulur mu? Hadi hadi yay. Az kaldı. Ben bu kısımda şey almamış mıydım ya? Açık dünya. Biliyorum. Ağaç çok iyi ya. Şuraya bak. Yes. Paso toplaya toplaya geldim ya. Şunları da alayım. Bir dakika. Oradaki ne? Kim? Kurt mu o?
The perpetrator stood nearby, unfazed, like nothing was wrong.
Aa bir
My
dakika.
dad is dead. And he's
Ulan
never
benim
coming
yavrularım bu
back,
kurt mu
Rachel.
öldürdü?
I can tell you these stories, but I can never reminisce with him again. He can never hold a grandchild that we'll probably never be able to have. I can
Şuraya
never
bak.
talk to him again, and I'll never be able to say I'm
Kurt lan bu.
sorry.
Yavrularımı öldürdü he. Şuraya bak. Evet. Evet. The Wolf.
It was really important to me that the wolf in this story that takes the fox's cubs, that it wasn't explained at all. Like it's just this entity that's in the background. And of course it's supposed to represent something bigger than a wolf or even the fox. It's supposed to represent like the specter of death, and it comes when you least expect it. There's no justification. He's just there, always watching.
Niye kaçtın? Neden kaçtın? Ha? Şuraya bak ya. Bu arada müzikleri çok güzel. Yani biraz mekanikler sırıtsa da ancak şey iyi yani. Atmosfer, müzik güzel. Atmosfer güzel olmaz mı? Baksana şuraya. The Wolf. Çık karşıma. Senin keskin dişlerin varsa benim de kurnazlığım var. Bana boşuna tilki demezler. Çık karşıma. The Wolf. Hadi müzik çok güzel bu arada. Çok güzel. Kesinlikle yani tam böyle kafa dinlemelik, yani boş vaktinde kafanı yormayacak, sakinleştirecek tam bir papatya çayı misali yani. Gerçekten tam bir papatya çayı. tilki ya, yavruların hepsi gitmiş abi ya. Kurt sağ olsun. Wow.
I need to go to bed. I just can't talk about this anymore. Good night.
Night. Nereye gideceğim ben? Haydi. İyi geceler. Okey. Tamam. Evet. Sıradaki. Güzel.
Joseph, you can't go to sleep feeling like this. I'm sorry for everything, and I know you need space, but I'm here for you. You don't need to feel so lost.
Berço.
Joseph, have I ever told you what my mother was like?
Hello, my name is Elise Whaley, and I was the voice actress for Rachel. I'm also David's wife.
Ya bence
so was
oyun
convenient for
çok
working
tatlı
together.
olmuş ya.
I was actually the voice actress for his first game, Home is
Böyle
Where
de
One
gidiyorum bak,
Starts,
ulaşamıyorum
and
çünkü
I guess
efsane
that I
şekilde
did a
şey
good enough
yapmışlar.
job that David
Yansıması
wanted me
var.
back, so I
Hadi
did the
bakalım.
voice acting for this one as well. David definitely coached me through it because
Güzel
I'm pretty
görüntü.
inexperienced when it comes to that. Home is Where One Starts was my first time ever doing voice acting of any kind. And we watched a lot of trailers of movies we liked to get the voice right
Bu
of
tarz böyle
female
çerezlik
leads who
oyunları
were talking in
seviyorum
the
ya.
trailer and try to mimic that and bring that into the game. So that had the right kind of feel and the right kind of atmosphere for the voice. My character actually is the same character from Home is Where One Starts. If you've played that game, you probably connected that together. And this is her probably about 15 years later, maybe 20 years later in this game. I was happy to revisit the character of Rachel. We kind of leave her in an ambiguous spot in Home is Where One Starts. It definitely ends on a hopeful note, but there's not a lot of details. And in this game, you see that she's able to move on through a lot of her issues that she had from her abusive home and be able to start her own family and start a new cycle without that abuse, which I think is really inspiring.
Bu bir ceylan.
You know what it's like not to have a mom at home. And you know how hard that made my childhood. What helped me was watching the birds in the morning before the school bus came. I thought that my mother was
Oyun aslında çok güzel kardeşim, işte İngilizce oynadık ya.
want to be free like her. My mom taught me how to
Ama
fold origami cranes while she was in the hospital. So I told myself I would fold one every day.
benim için de güzel bir deneyim oldu.
I think we both have always loved animals, and for me that love started with a dog. Sometimes this Rottweiler would come up to our property line and wait at the fence for me, but only once in a while. I was sure to check every day immediately after school, and it usually ended in disappointment. I would even steal money from my passed-out dad just so I could buy these off-brand dog biscuits. Even when she did stop by, she never went beyond the fence. Why was she so scared?
So it's always interesting working with your spouse, because especially on a creative project, because they want your feedback, but it's something that's also dear to their heart, and they're dear to your heart, and you definitely don't want to hurt their feelings. So I was a little nervous when David asked me, he had finally finished writing the script, and he asked me to go over it and see what I thought. And I had minored in English. I majored in art, but I minored in English, so I felt like I had a little bit of experience. But I was definitely like a little scared, because you don't want to be too harsh, but you also want to be honest. And it was the biggest relief when I read the script, and I was like, oh good, my husband's a good writer. I don't have to change that much about this, just a few like grammatical things. And that was just like the biggest relief for me, because it can be a tricky balance working with your spouse and making sure that that honesty is there, but also that love and the support is there as well.
Okay.
I think my dad was the opposite of your dad in almost every way, except he was in the military as well. He coped with alcohol of every kind. The trailer started falling apart, he got angry, and I withdrew. More and more I became the weird, quiet kid who made lots of origami birds and carried dog biscuits around. I think we were pretty similar when it came to being the weird kids. And that same sincerity in college was one of the reasons I was so drawn to you. Life got worse and worse, and at one point, I really didn't think I could survive another day with my soul still intact. I had no real friends, let alone neighbors, since we lived in the middle of nowhere. I should have talked to my teacher, but I was scared what he would do if he found out. As I waited for the school bus one morning, I walked around
Evet.
and found something in an abandoned
Keyifli bir
shed.
oyun.
Something I can't put into words.
Ama bilgisayardan oynayacak
So we're
dostum
talking
varsa
about homes where one starts a
kesinlikle
lot. So if you haven't played that game, maybe
yamalı
this doesn't make as
oynasın.
much sense, or maybe this is a little plug that you should go play it. But in that game, it actually features one of my artworks. I work as an artist and paper cutting actually, and David used one of my artworks as a graffitied stencil in Home is Where One Starts that's against the wall of this shack. And
Adamların
it actually shows up
aslında
again in the first tree,
hani
just
bu
a
oyunun
fragment of it.
güzelliği şu,
The first
adamların
tree, the
aslında
title actually
inanılmaz
comes from
bir
one of my
derecede
artworks
şey
that I made
olmuş ya,
back in
hani
2015,
arşivlik bir
I wanna say.
şey gibi,
And I made
andaç
this
andaç
artwork,
gibi.
while I
Hani
was
liseden
pregnant with
mezun
my first
olursun ya.
child.
Oyunu yapanlar
And
için de
it had a lot of
keyifli
meaning for me,
bir
and David actually helped me come up with the title.
güzel bir doküman
And
olmuş.
he asked because I was
Herkes
really
anlatıyor.
struggling. I was like, I have no
Şunu
idea what
yaptık,
to call
bunu
this.
yaptık, şu
And
oldu, bu
I
oldu.
always go to David for title ideas and to bounce ideas off of him, and that's like the only way I can ever come up with a title is by talking with him. So we were talking back and forth and looking at this artwork, and he said, well, what kind of like movies or shows were you watching while you're making the artwork? Because my work's pretty tedious, so sometimes I'll watch a show or do some Netflix binging while I'm creating it. And I
Nereye
said, I
geldim
actually
ben be?
watched Tree of Life
Doğru.
a ton.
Gece ilerledim.
And then we're like, Tree of Life, and we
Şuraya
started
bak.
thinking more about that, and then
Çok iyi değil mi?
arrived at the first tree. So it started off as one of my artworks and then became a part of David's art, which I think is really cool that we were able to share that title.
I summoned courage I didn't know I had, and I broke into my dad's room and found the key to the shed where he had locked my bike. I'll never forget that feeling. The wind rushing by my ears as the sun rose over fields of wheat. I was flying for the first time. I biked as far as my legs could take me until I found a house that felt friendly, and that felt like home. Those strangers helped me in so many ways. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have found my foster family. And if it wasn't for my parents, I wouldn't have met you. You have strength, Joseph, and you're not as alone as you think.
It's all just so pointless. Just waiting for life to happen.
Çok güzel ama ya.
It's like having the home
Renk,
always
oyunun
just
renklerini
burst
çok
out of
beğendim.
my
Onu
reach.
söylemem
The
lazım.
thought of being a parent myself. How could I do that when I couldn't
Mesela
even
bu
be a
tarz
good
bir açık
son?
dünya oyunu
I'm
yapsaymış
sorry. I know what you're
çok
saying.
daha, yani bu tarz
I just
bir,
don't
bu
know how
renk
things will
paletine
work out.
yakın ya da
These
bununla
quiet
aynı bir
hours
açık
will
dünya
turn
oyunu
into
çok isterdim.
years. We'll
Çok
wonder
güzel.
which roads passed us by.
Then
Aa,
we'll forge a new road
süper.
together. Besides, I
Şuraya bak.
discovered for myself that one fateful morning where any hopeful road
Bak,
leads to.
bak kimleri
There
görüyorum.
may be thorns and mist, but it always leads to the same thing.
Vay.
And what's that?
Family.
Aile.
I'm so glad that you're part of my
Şuraya
family,
bak.
Rachel.
And I'm glad you're part of mine.
A question I get a lot is why a fox? And it ties into just how important
Çok iyi
family
değil
is
mi?
for me. And Fox is
Bayağı
actually a
iyi.
family name from my wife's side, from Elise. And she always heard about the legacy of the Fox family. And because of that, growing up, it was her favorite animal. She even made these 2 wooden foxes for our wedding cake toppers. So I thought it would be cool to have that animal in the game while these 2 people are having this conversation in the middle of the night.
Çok güzel. Güzel. Kurt neredesin kurt? Ya şeyi çok beğendim, dediğim gibi şeyi güzel. Yani renkler güzel, atmosfer güzel. Mekanikler biraz iyi değil. Yani iyi değildi desem doğru. Ancak işte Türkçe oynarsanız güzel ya. Dediğim gibi papatya çayı ile eşdeğer. Full relax bir oyun. Kafa dağıtmalık, çerezlik güzel bir oyun. Haydi bakalım.
The fox knew her last cub would be waiting for her at the first tree. She was almost there. The rain cascaded onto the jade valley where the entrance to the tree was. Life was protected there, because that's where life began. It was now only a mother and a daughter
Oha
left.
bu ne ya?
Items from my life still dotted the ground as she moved closer to her destination and destiny.
Ne yaptım ben ya? Ya yukarı çıkmam lazımdı benim. Düşüyorum abi, yapacak bir şey yok. Tıklayamadım oraya. Şunu alamadım. Olsun.
Usually what catches people's attention of the first tree is the visuals, of course. And I was inspired by a lot of people making these levels. The second level is inspired by just these beautiful autumn photos of a real forest. And this level, the Jade Valley, is inspired by the artwork of Heather Penn, who did the Overland games. I just love those greens with a lot of gray in it. I love the strong vignettes in the corners of the frame. And of course, this environment pack was made by the very talented Swedish designer Mikael Gustafsson. And of course, his initial designs inspired me, and I was able to build off of that. And I'm really grateful that he allowed his environment pack to be made publicly available. At the end of high school, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Drive. I looked into the best architecture schools on the West Coast and got a dose of reality when looking at other students' portfolios and the high cost of tuition. I still wanted to be something, to be the next Alvaro Siza, and to make those thousands of sketches worth something in my grand history. But now even an internship sounds impossible. Siza helped me understand how essential emotion is in architecture. And he also said light is the real composer of space. I like to think these glints of light, like not finding a job or even a strange dream about a fox, are something I should be thankful for. Even if the illuminated space is something I'm less than comfortable with.
Hadi bakalım, hadi bakalım. The first
By
three.
now you've probably caught on to some of the themes I love to explore in these stories. And the big one is of this tree, the first tree on Earth. And a lot of people have asked me, what does that mean? Why a tree? And basically it boils down to this delicate balance between nature and its relationship with life and death. And I love these stories where they put like these microscopic relationships, like something of like a father and a son, and juxtapose it next to this epic story of like the creation of the universe and the first tree on Earth, and how they can be equally as important, because in my mind, like, my family is as important as like the creation of the earth.
Şu yukarıda var.
And it reminds me of like some of the stories I love, like The Road by Cormac McCarthy, or The Tree of Life by Terrence Malick. Basically, I wanted to make sure the player felt that there was a higher power than themselves, and that there was something watching over them as they went through this story.
Okey. Dakika 40 oldu. Baya koşuyoruz. Okey. Allah'ım. Okey.
Was that the last time you talked to him?
No, I called on holidays, and he would call on my birthday. I guess we acted like nothing ever happened, which was stupid. Didn't want to ask about his lumberyard, and I'm sure he didn't want to ask about my job search. I never went back and visited. I think the last conversation we had was about what movies we had seen, and what exactly a best boy is in the credits. I thought he would be here so much longer.
Okay. Aha.
In the distance, the first tree illuminated the wasteland.
Oğlum gitme kurt.
She couldn't go home
Gitme.
anymore.
Gitme lan.
She did the only thing she was capable of. Moving forward.
Gitme dedim.
My dad
Lan
died
bütün
alone
yavrularımı
in the
yemiş.
wilderness.
Parçalamış.
I should have been talking to him more. I should have done a lot of things differently.
If the first tree on earth brought life with it,
If the first
if
tree.
it taught the birds to sing and fly and showed saplings how to grow, what could it do
Zırlamaya
for
bak ya.
us?
Bütün yavrularımı yedin. Üzgünüz. Last.
Obviously, this is a really emotional part, but I'm going to talk through it anyway. A lot of people correctly identify that Journey was like a huge inspiration for the first tree. And this part, it is like a callback to that part where you're climbing up the mountain with your friend you don't know, and it just gets snowier and snowier, and you just keep going, and then eventually you collapse. And that part, that made a huge impact on me.
Wow.
And I don't even own a PlayStation 3 or 4. I rented a PlayStation from like a rent-a-center right after completing Home is Where One Starts, just because I'd heard so much about it. And everyone was right, it was a very impactful game, and it definitely inspired the first tree. There was a letter I received yesterday from a name I didn't recognize, with a quote I can't stop thinking about. Death is not the opposite of life, but a part of it. More and more, I'm realizing one important truth. Each of us have our own journey to the first tree. But sometimes I'm not sure I'm ready to take that first step.
You already have my love.
Buradan devam edesim geldi, bakalım. The first tree. Okay. O topladığım tabii ki her şey burada.
I guess our journey was over.
İşe yaradı galiba.
But I have no idea. It was only a dream. A distraction from tomorrow.
But I have no
I don't
idea.
think dreams normally bring back to memory so many important feelings. Maybe it was just a dream, but
Okay.
it was also a gift.
Yeah, I suppose. But tomorrow we're getting on a plane to the last place on Earth I want to be. The only person that would have made the trip worth it is gone.
You're going to see him and be with him one last time before you say goodbye. I have one last quote for you by Emerson, sealed in an imaginary letter from me to you. It is the secret of the world that all things subsist and do not die, but only retire a little from sight and afterward return again.
Evet.
Go to sleep, my love. We have a big day tomorrow.
Aslında bunları izlediğim zaman şey yapabilirim ya. Durdurup Google'dan çevirebilirim de.
Thanks for listening.
Başkasından da
Good
izlerim.
night, Rachel.
Ama benim için güzel bir deneyim
Good
oldu.
night, Joseph.
İyi geceler Joseph. İyi geceler. Evet. Yani aslında bir tilkinin yaşadıkları normal insanlar, yani bir anlamda onlarla bağdaşlaştırma şeklinde bir anlatısı var. Bana öyle geldi tabii ki. Aşağı alayım. Bakalım nereye bağlanacak, hadi. Hadi bakalım. Abi bir dakika. 6 ay sonra mı? 6 ay sonra. Tabii ki şu anda evdeyim ben. Ha. 6 ay sonra. Bir dakika. The Book of Mormon. Ha. Evet. Eşim burada. Joseph benim. Aynen. Okey. İyi geceler Joseph. İyi geceler, iyi geceler. Odam da güzelmiş ha. Odamız diyeyim daha doğrusu. Ha. Okey. Konu bayağı hoşuma gitti şimdi. Ha. Uyu uyu, rüya görme. Uyu.
you're probably thinking,
What
what is
the?
going on? And that was definitely my intention for this epilogue part of the first tree. This is my favorite part. This is the part I'm most proud of. And it definitely, like, it's supposed to evoke this, like, what is going on? Where am I? I was not expecting this.
Yani stüdyo demiş ki biz tamam o tarz oyun yapıyoruz da bak biz bu tarz da yapabiliyoruz yani. Merak etme. İyi bağlamışlar bence. Buraya yeni taşınmış bence bunlar. Buraya yeni taşınmışlar. Çünkü eşyalar var.
So you walk around in this like twilight stupor.
Çocuk odası burası.
And I would say the whole first part of this game where you play as the fox, its whole purpose is to set up for this conclusion. So yeah, I would encourage you to look around and see how many things you recognize from the earlier part of the game.
Boş oda. Mutfak. Bunu açamıyorsun. Evet, salon. Oo, fena kaşındı gözüm. İyi bağlamışlar ama bence böyle. Ben de tam dedim bitti mi? Güzel bağlamışlar. Böyle. Tabi bağlamışlar değil. Belki de yazıyordu da. Aşağı Londralıyız. Ondan. Biz buraya yerleşmişiz abicim. Abi çok güzel ya. Baksana şuraya. Tavşan. Bunlar doğayla iç içe olan bir aile. Güzel. Ama tilkiye de üzülmedim değil yani. Üzüldüm. Okey. Bizim dağ evi burası. Ve yani bir taşıma eşyalar. Ya taşınmışız işte yeni. Güzel.
I tried hard to foreshadow this
Ya bir
epilogue.
aslında şu dağ evi benim bir hayalim, rüyam gibi bir şey olmuş bu.
And so Joseph
Bence de ya.
he would say things like, I felt like I
Abi
was
şu
right
manzaraya
behind
baksana,
the fox
şurada
the whole
oturduğunu
time.
düşün yani.
In my mind, the camera
Efsane.
perspective acts as a metaphor for who the player is, what they're seeing. If the camera represents Joseph, or just like that video game trope of having the camera follow you. I guess the big question I wanted the player to ask themselves, is this a dream as well? And if so, does that even matter?
Oğlum biz bunu baştan böyle oynasak daha iyi değil miydi? En azından daha iyi olurmuş. Tilkiyle uğraşmasaydık. Sanki şurada bir şey var. Evet. Şimdi burada keşfe çıkacağım. Evet, burada keşfe çıkacağım. Şöyle aşağı inelim. Koşması da yavaş. Abi gökyüzü çok güzel. Efsane. Şimdi bak videoyu burada bırakabilirim. Ha, derim ki 3. bölümde şey yapalım. Ama adam gelmiş dağın eteğine. Niye açamıyorum? Abi manzaraya baksana. Ay gidemiyorsun. Gidemiyorsun. Buradan da eylem yok. Abi dağın başına gelmişiz yani. Ama efsane değil mi? Baksana şuraya. Adam orayı da kapatmış kapıyla. Aa süper. Sonra? Demezler mi adama sonra? Hadi. Ha. Arabamız var. Pick-up. Hem de pick-up. Etkileşimde bulunamıyoruz. Hava çok güzel. Şimdi eve mi gireyim? Ne yapacağım? Allah için uyan ya. Uyan uyan. Dondum ben ya. Kapıyı da açmışım ha. Tamam. Oturma odası da güzel ya. Tamam, ben ne yapacağım şimdi? Deliler gibi koşayım o zaman. Final abi, finalimiz yok mu bizim ya? Bak. Şurada sanki bir şey varmış gibi, şurası. Evet. Oraya ulaşmanın yolunu nasıl bulacağım ben? Atlan mı? En azından oradan değil de şuradan yol alacağım. Tamam. Evet. Biz farklı düşündük. Adam burayı komple kendine kapatmış yani. Bak şurada da kamp yapıyor. Oy oy oy. Efsane. Bunlar ateş böceği mi?
What the hell?
Kurt mu o? Evet, kurt. Ya kurt ya tilki o. Ama tilkiye benziyor ya. Allah Allah, tilki bizi takip et dedi.
I purposefully fade out
Ah.
the crosshair in the middle of the screen because I wanted it to be a direct callback to the camera following the fox.
Bir
in the
rüyadan,
first 5 levels
bir
of the first
anlatıdan
stream. I wanted to go
ibaret
for that
değilmiş
gut
değil.
reaction.
Şuraya bak.
This was very familiar yet totally in a different world.
Manzara efsane. Bizi nereye götürüyor? Yavruların yanında mı yoksa? Yavruları ölmüştü. Kayboldu. Hayır. İşte bu. Düştüm. Müzik efsane. Şurada da tam şu manzarada da Viking muhabbeti yapmazsam olmaz. Tam bir Viking manzarası. Tam. Viking Eivor'u analım. Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Yani şöyle söyleyeyim, aslında görsel bir şölen eşliğinde keşif oyunu. Güzel, basit ama iyi bir mesaj veren tatlı bir oyun. Yani müziklerine bayıldım diyebilirim. Gerçekten sevdim. Güzel. Hadi. Bu ne? Ha? Çok iyi değil mi? Şuraya bak.
Thank you for making it to the end of my game. And I hope you enjoy the personalized message that is featured on the trunk of this tree. It's a message submitted by another player that's retrieved from a database, and it's retrieved at random. And I did this because I wanted people, even if they feel alone through trials of death, that there is a community, an invisible community supporting each other. So thanks for playing.
Nerede? Tamam. Şu an koşmuyor bak. Koşmuyor. Allah Allah. Evet. Kendimi kaybettim. Şu ağaca ineyim. Ya şöyle mi ilerleyeyim? Niye koşmuyor karakter? Karakter koşmuyor. Şu ağaçta bir eylemde bulunmam lazım. Bir bakayım. Bakmam lazım. Konuşamadım. Çünkü yani koşmuyorsa, yani keşfetmeni istemiyor oyun. Sanırım bu ağaçla ilgili bir eylemde bulunmam lazım. Ağaçta ağaç ama. Ha. Hadi. Baya bir saati geçti. Okay. Bir dakika, o bizim gördüğümüz tilkiydi zaten. Tilkinin ruhu bu ağaçta sanırım. Büyük ihtimal. Bak. Yavrularıyla gidiyor. Ha. Buymuş. The first three. Kayıp ruhların ağacı diyeyim. Buymuş. Güzel bir deneyimdi. Tatlı bir deneyimdi. Çerezlik, keyifli, tam tamına papatya çayı misali. Başta da onu yazacağım zaten. Papatya çayı misali bir oyun diye. Güzeldi. İyi bir deneyimdi. İzleyen dostlarıma şimdiden teşekkürler. Gerçekten keyifli. Ne zamandır da oynamak istiyordum. Çünkü kütüphanede böyle, yani ben hani nasıl söyleyeyim, her indirim döneminde böyle devasa bir sürü oyun alan biri değilim. Sadece bir iki tane çok iyi indirimden bunları ala bunlar birikti tabii. Birikince de artık bir şekilde böyle sizlere sunuyorum. Ve de evet, oyun bitti. Oyun bitti. Evet. Yeniden new game diyor. O zaman ne diyorum? Oyunlarda görüşmek üzere. Güzel bir şekilde 2 bölüm halinde The First Three'yi tamamladık. Keyifli bir keşif oyunu, güzel hikayesi var. Basit ancak dediğim gibi atmosferiyle dinlendirici bir etkisi var. Çerezlik bir oyun. Dikkat edin kendinize. Görüşmek üzere, oyunlarda görüşürüz. Beğenini, yorumunu eksik etme. Haydi bakalım.